I lost my mom when I was 5, and my dad remarried when I was 6. I loved my stepmom pretty quickly. She was really kind and sweet, and she asked me about my mom the first time we met. When she saw I was upset about the whole situation, I felt like mom was being replaced. We got along really well, but even when I loved her, and even when I was glad she was in my life, I never felt as strongly about her being my second mom. When I was 8, my stepmom asked me if I would like to go to a Mother's Day picnic with her. I asked her if we could do this blended family picnic instead. She was clearly disappointed, but said sure. My dad asked me why I wouldn't do both, and I told him I didn't feel good about spending Mother's Day at a picnic with my stepmom and not my mom. He told me having 2 moms wasn't a bad thing, and I should consider how happy it would make my stepmom. Stepmom and I had a great day at the blended family picnic, which was held a week or 2 after the Mother's Day one. Sometime after that, my dad asked me to start calling my stepmom Mom to make her feel good. I told him I didn't want to. He told me it would make me feel good too if I called her Mom, and it would make my mom feel good too. I told him it wouldn't, and he walked off annoyed. Over the years, we had many times where I was being asked either directly or indirectly to accept my stepmom as more than my stepmom, but as my second mom. My stepmom was great though, and she never stopped talking about my mom or took away her photos. I love her for that. But it's just not the same kind of love. She would ask about Mother's Day sometimes, or offer to do these Mother's Day celebrations my art classes threw for us and our moms, but she didn't push if I said no, which I did. My dad was more pushy, and for a couple of years, we were all in therapy because he thought it was an issue. Recently, he told me I am old enough now, 16 years old, to accept that my stepmom is just as much my mom as mom is, and that she deserves to be more than my stepmom after all this time. He said it unalives her that I never acknowledge her as my second mom. It upsets her that I don't want to celebrate her on Mother's Day, and that I'm sad on Mother's Day instead of enjoying her with my half-siblings. My dad's birthday was Saturday, and we had both his and my stepmom's sides of the family over. My dad brought up to his mother-in-law that he wishes we could join her and the rest of the family for their Mother's Day weekend trip. But he didn't want me, mopey, to depress everyone, since I can't make the day a happy one for the woman who's been raising me for a decade. It made me lose my temper a little, and I told him he wouldn't understand, but I can't just stop being sad that mom isn't here. And I can't just force myself to feel the same about someone else. I told him if he really loved me like he claims, he would be way more understanding and stop trying to pressure me to claim my stepmom. He was so mad I spoke like that in front of the extended families. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your father brought it up. He did it to shame you, to pressure you into doing something that you don't want to do. You reacted to his behavior. This is normal. It has been going on for 8 years or so. I think your behavior was predictable. In essence, your father messed around and found out. Then he was embarrassed. Not the idiot. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Good for you. Stand your ground. If you are perfectly polite, obey, show appreciation, you are doing your job. Adults who force kids into a corner amaze me. That is a conversation you two need to have in private. Now the entire family knows how you are being pressured. You be you, smart girl. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a chaotic month since then, and a lot has happened. I'm back to give you an update, and trust me, it's been a roller coaster. After the blow-up at my dad's birthday, things got really tense at home. My stepmom, who's always been the peacekeeper, tried to smooth things over. She sat me down and we had a heart-to-heart. She told me about how when she first met my dad, she was nervous about stepping into a family that had lost so much. She never wanted to replace my mom, but she did want to be someone I could rely on. It was touching to hear her side of things, and it made me see her in a new light. But just when I thought we were making progress, my dad dropped a bombshell. He'd been keeping a secret from both of us. Turns out, my stepmom had been dealing with infertility issues before she met my dad. She'd always wanted a child of her own, but never got the chance. When she married my dad, she embraced me and my half-siblings as her own, but there was always a part of her that felt incomplete. This revelation hit me hard. I'd never considered her feelings to that depth. It explained why Mother's Day was so important to her and why my dad was pushing me to accept her as my second mom. He wanted to give her the full experience of motherhood that she'd been denied. The next few weeks were a blur of emotions. My stepmom started joining me for my therapy sessions. It was awkward at first, but it helped us understand each other better. We talked about my mom, her infertility, and our family dynamics. It was during one of these sessions that I learned about my stepmom's tradition of visiting my mom's grave every year on her birthday, something she'd done in secret to respect my feelings. Things at home started to improve. My dad apologized for pressuring me and admitted he was just trying to make everyone happy. He realized that he couldn't force a relationship and that it had to develop naturally. As Mother's Day approached, I was dreading the day. But then my stepmom surprised me. She suggested we do something different this year. Instead of the usual celebrations, she wanted to spend the day volunteering at a local shelter. It was a cause close to my mom's heart, and it felt like the perfect way to honor her memory. The day was emotional, but fulfilling. We worked together, serving meals and helping out where we could. It was the first Mother's Day that didn't end with me locked in my room, crying. I felt closer to my stepmom than ever before. But just when I thought we'd turned a corner, another twist came our way. My dad's mother-in-law, my stepmom's mom, had always been a bit distant with me. I never knew why, but I assumed it was because I wasn't her biological grandchild. However, during a family dinner, she let slip the real reason. It turns out, she'd always been jealous of the bond my stepmom and I shared. She felt like an outsider in her own daughter's family. She confessed that she'd been the one urging my dad to push me to accept my stepmom as my second mom, thinking it would bring the family closer together. This confession caused a huge argument. My stepmom was furious that her mom had been meddling in our family. My dad was upset that he'd been influenced by her without knowing the full story. And I was just shocked. The confrontation ended with my stepmom's mom leaving in tears, and the rest of us trying to pick up the pieces. It was a mess, but in a weird way, it brought us all closer together. We realized that we'd been letting other people dictate our relationships, instead of just talking to each other. Now, we're working on rebuilding our family, but this time on our own terms. My stepmom and I have started a new tradition for Mother's Day, one that includes volunteering and visiting my mom's grave together. My dad is learning to step back and let things happen naturally. And just when I thought things couldn't get any more complicated, my stepmom dropped another surprise. She's pregnant. After years of thinking it was impossible, it turns out she's expecting. The news has thrown our family into a whole new kind of chaos, but it's a happy one. My pregnant girlfriend begs me to skip Mardi Gras parades, but I sneak off to party and drink anyway, until she confronts me and we bare our souls just to find out we're having twins. I, female 23, am 6 months pregnant with my boyfriend, male 26, and my first baby. I have had a few complications. I am now on a blood pressure pill, which has made me more exhausted than usual. During Mardi Gras season, my boyfriend and I have been attending parades with friends for the past month. I recently had a talk with my boyfriend and told him that I needed a break from parades because it was taking a pretty heavy toll on me. I was in a lot of physical pain from all the walking and ended up catching infection 19 and had to quarantine. Mardi Gras weekend was this past weekend, and my boyfriend asked me if I would go to parades with him. I agreed to one because I have a friend who lives on the parade route and allowed us to watch the parade at her house. He still wanted to go to parades for the rest of the weekend though, and told me that if I didn't go, then he wouldn't be able to go since his car isn't safe to drive in the city, and he wanted to drink. After some convincing, I agreed, only if we bring chairs for me to sit in. On the day of the parade, I went to pack both chairs, but he told me to only pack one, since he'd be standing most of the time. We were rushing out of the house, and ended up getting to the parade later than we planned, so we had to park further away from where we were meeting friends. Ultimately, we ended up walking 11 blocks to meet them. Halfway through the walk, I had to use the restroom, and couldn't hold it anymore. My boyfriend was upset with me because we were already running late, and for the rest of the walk, gave me the silent treatment. When we finally got to the spot, I was completely out of breath, overheated, and my feet were on fire. He set up our chair and then sat down in it. I asked him if I could sit down, and he told me to just give him a minute. I was almost in tears at this point and visibly upset. So this kind stranger who was set up a little bit further down the road ended up asking if I wanted to use one of his seats. I thanked him, and we had a nice but short conversation about my pregnancy. Once we got home, I had a conversation with my boyfriend about how I felt that he didn't care that I was pregnant and should have given up the seat for me. I also said that it was sad that a stranger had to give up his seat for a woman he didn't know. But it shows that it's common courtesy to do so for pregnant women. He told me that he made the same walk as me, and his feet also hurt, and that the man didn't even know that I was pregnant. I then lashed out and called him selfish and a horrible boyfriend. After I said that, his entire mood changed, and we had a very long talk about how his medication has changed the way he feels about other people, and that I need to loosen up and stop being so harsh on him. I'm worried that I was too harsh on him by calling him selfish, and that I'm expecting too much special treatment because I'm pregnant. I don't know how I feel about this. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm going to be honest and say I mostly skimmed this. Not the jerk. Pregnant women get to sit down. He should be taking care of you. If he thought he'd need to sit down, he should have brought a chair, but he told you not to bring it. Sure, you're not helpless, you're just pregnant, but you've been doing so much for him. The minimum he can do is let the mother of his unborn child sit down. He's not chivalrous at all, and that's a bit concerning, considering you're about to have a child with him. Comment 2. Your boyfriend isn't jerk. Your requests are not in any way inappropriate, and you should think long and hard about how he treats you before complicating your life with this man even further. Pregnancy is one time in your life when everyone around you should be giving you extra consideration. If the father of this child can't do that, then you're better off without him, in my opinion. Good luck. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been 2 weeks since my last post, and boy, do I have an update for you all. After the whole Mardi Gras parade fiasco, things took a turn I didn't expect. So, after our big argument, my boyfriend and I were in a weird place. We were both feeling pretty hurt and misunderstood. He was still on his medication, which he said was making him feel off, and I was still dealing with the exhaustion and pain from my pregnancy complications. We were both stressed, and it was clear we needed to find some middle ground. We decided to sit down and really talk things out. It was a long and emotional conversation, but we finally reached a compromise. He agreed to be more considerate of my physical needs, especially with the baby on the way, and I agreed to try and be more understanding about how his medication was affecting him. We also agreed that we would skip the rest of the Mardi Gras festivities to avoid any more stress. But just when I thought we were on the same page, I found out something that made my blood boil. A friend of mine told me she saw my boyfriend at a parade the day after we agreed to skip them. He had told me he was going to help his brother with some house repairs. I was furious. When I confronted him, he admitted he went to the parade, but insisted he didn't drink and took an Uber to stay safe. I was ready to explode, but then he dropped a bombshell. He confessed that he felt trapped by the pregnancy and needed some space to clear his head. He said he loved me and our baby, but the pressure was getting to him. I was shocked and hurt, but I also realized that we were both struggling with the changes in our lives. We had another heart-to-heart, and this time, we both opened up about our fears and insecurities. It was a tough conversation, but it brought us closer. We agreed that we needed to support each other more and communicate better. He promised to be more honest with me, and I promised to give him the space he needed when he felt overwhelmed. Things have been better since then. He's been more attentive, and I've been trying to be less demanding. We're both working on being better partners to each other. It's not perfect, but we're making progress. And then, just when I thought we were getting back on track, another surprise came our way. At my latest doctor's appointment, we found out we're having twins. We were both in shock. Twins run in my family, but I never thought it would happen to me. It's going to be a lot more work, but we're both excited and terrified at the same time. This revelation has brought us even closer together. We've been busy preparing for the arrival of not one, but 2 babies. It's been a lot to take in, but we're doing it together. Man behind me on flight keeps kicking my seat and demands I open the window, then closes it. When I do, so I tell him off, but he plays the race card and screams until I'm scared. Please don't share on social media or cross-post. So a few months ago, I was on a short flight sitting at the window seat. I was in one of those weird window seats, where you basically have 2 windows and the person behind you doesn't have any. I closed them both as soon as I was able, because the sun was shining directly in my face and it made me uncomfortable. The couple behind me knew they were together because of a conversation between them and the flight attendant. Spent the first 30 minutes of the flight repeatedly hitting the back of my seat, which obviously was annoying, but I left it alone. I had my headphones on and I was reading a book, but the guy, middle seat, tapped my shoulder and asked me to open the window. I did and put my headphones back on. Not even 30 seconds later, he reached over his girlfriend, hitting my headrest to close the blinds. Starting to get pretty frustrated at this point, but it's a short flight, so I just let it be. He taps me on the shoulder again to tell me thank you for opening the blind. At this point, I'm annoyed, so I ask him to please not touch me again and to leave me alone. During this whole time, they are still hitting the back of my seat. The flight attendants come by with the small water and the snacks, and I put mine away for later. He taps me on the shoulder again and asks for my water. I said no, and I again said to please leave me alone and to not touch me, but he now demands my water. I put my headphones on, and the seat hitting gets more aggressive. When the flight attendant comes around for pre-landing checks, I ask her to ask him and his girlfriend to stop bothering me. When she asked for further details, I explained they had been hitting the back of my chair the whole flight and kept tapping on my arm, even though I had asked him not to. I am a white woman, and the man was black, so he started screaming in French and pointing at his skin and saying in English that it's because he's black. The flight attendant said she believed he hadn't done anything wrong, and the girlfriend started laughing, saying, why would he touch her inappropriately when she was sitting right there? I was getting scared because the flight attendants weren't helping, and they were both aggressively hitting the back of my seat at that point. I'm of the belief that any time you touch someone after they've told you not to touch them, it's inappropriate. But I never used those words when speaking with the flight attendant. She did scold the girlfriend for laughing at me for being uncomfortable, but she just let this man hit the back of my seat in front of her without saying a word. For all of this saying this is fake, believe what you want. But honestly, if I was going to make up a story, it wouldn't include me tolerating harassment for 2.5 hours and being afraid for my safety in public. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You know when it's time to pull out your phone and start recording people in public, and then you post the misbehaving people on social media? This is one of those times. Not the idiot, and I'm sorry the flight attendants didn't do anything to help you. Not the idiot. Comment 2. After a bad experience on a plane where I didn't take a video, I just do this. If I have to ask someone not do something a second time, I will usually be recording. I don't put the phone in their face, just record on the side in case I need it. Now, for the update. Day 1. So, remember the couple from my flight a few months back? The ones who kept hitting my seat and bothering me? Well, guess who I ran into at the coffee shop today? Yep, the same guy. At first I didn't recognize him, but then he came over and said, "Hey, window seat girl." My heart sank. I was just trying to enjoy my latte when he sat down at my table. He started off by apologizing for the flight incident, said he was having a bad day and took it out on me. I was skeptical, but listened. He told me he and his girlfriend had broken up right after that flight. Apparently, she had been cheating on him with his best friend, and he found out mid-air when he saw texts on her phone. That explained the weird tension and the seat hitting, I guess. Day 2. So, the guy from the coffee shop, let's call him Mark, messaged me on social media. He found me through the coffee shop's check-in feature. Creepy, right? But he was persistent, apologizing again and asking if we could be friends. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him for coffee again. We talked, and he shared more about his past. He had moved here for his now ex-girlfriend and didn't have many friends. I started to feel bad for him. He was charming, and I could see why his ex would have been attracted to him in the first place. We ended up talking for hours, and I learned we had a lot in common. He loved books and had a passion for traveling, just like me. Day 3. Mark and I had been texting non-stop since our last coffee meetup. It was surprising how quickly we clicked. He suggested we go out for dinner, and I agreed. The night was going well until we ran into his ex-girlfriend. She was with the same guy Mark had mentioned before, his former best friend. The confrontation was intense. Mark's ex was shocked to see us together. She started laughing and making snide remarks about how Mark must have finally found someone desperate enough to be with him. Mark was visibly hurt, and I felt a pang of heartbreak for him. He had opened up to me about how much that betrayal had hurt him, and seeing it all play out in front of me was tough. The ex's new boyfriend stepped in, trying to calm things down, but Mark was having none of it. He told them both off, saying he was better off without her, and that he had found someone who actually respected him. He grabbed my hand, and we left the restaurant. Outside, Mark apologized for the scene. He said he didn't want our evening ruined by his past. I could tell he was trying to move on, but the pain was still fresh. We decided to call it a night, and he walked me to my car. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.